So Bezos made some comment about, gee, if we had 1 trillion people living in space stations, maybe we could have 1,000 Einsteins. And I'm like, how do you not know there's 10 of them right now in the Sudan, right, in Eritrea, right, in Gaza, in other places where we're starving the people because we choose to. You want to go populate space and put people into closed, sterile environments, and you think from that you're going to yield out Einsteins.
Hey there, business enthusiasts. Welcome to the Chills Podcast, brought to you by Allweather Roof. Because just like a sturdy roof, our conversations are built to last. I'm your host, Brent Loberg, and we're about to dive into the world of business, family, and the moments that give us those exhilarating chills. Ever wonder what keeps successful people inspired? Well, get ready to find out as we chat with some fantastic all-weather customers, partners, vendors, and friends. We'll explore their triumphs, challenges, and maybe even some unexpected secrets. After all, business is not just about numbers. It's about the people behind them. So grab your metaphorical popcorn and join us on this journey. Get ready to be inspired, maybe even get a few chills of your own. This is the Chills Podcast. Let the goosebumps begin. All right, well, introduce yourself.
So Garrick Villaume, as I mentioned, I was born up at the headwaters of the Red River in Breckenridge.
Oh, really?
And not there long, I think, before we came to the cities, and then ended up at the farm when I was in about first grade. Went through school in the school district in the West St. Paul area, made all my friends there. My life straddled rural and suburban worlds. We were not well off by any means, and so I went to the university on Pell Grants, the land grant institution, did exactly what its mission is for me, served it well. Did my undergraduate there in physics, and then went on to be a grad student working on the Sudan 2 deep underground experiment in the old U.S. steel mine up in Sudan.
Okay.
2,700 feet, I think it is, something like that underground, and actually vertically it's right under Lake Vermilion. Really, really cool experiment, really cool stuff. Taught me a lot of things. But I was already married and had children by the time I started grad school, and so it was a pretty heavy lift. And I had an opportunity to go into industry, working as an engineer, science for money.
Sure.
A friend called it, and I started there while I was finishing my analytical work and writing my dissertation. So
Okay.
Took 4 long years where I was doing the dissertation on the side then, so that became the secondary focus while I was doing my engineering job, right, during the day.
Okay.
Trying to, meet all the expectations and perform well and do all the stuff that you would do in an environment like that. So,
What was the project in Ireland that you were working on?
that was about transferring and improving and aligning processes and the technologies that the factory that was doing the development work here out in Edina, Bloomington area, were leading with. And at that time, there was a wafer, so a recording head wafer, right, lithographic processing and all of those things, thin film devices. All of that was going under a format change as they increased the number of devices that you put on a given substrate. And then the size and the shape of that substrate actually changed. Seagate for a while had square substrates when I got there, and we went back to round. And it was at that time doing all the work that brings that process change in while maintaining continuity of performance and predictability of the outcome and meeting the expected metrics, those types of things.
Okay.
So I was running a analysis team, right? So you could think of it as typical analytical operations type stuff. Are the targets right? Are the process settings right? Right. If it's not, what are the signs that we can use from the data and the test information to adjust those and optimize the balance between speed, quality, performance, which is pretty typical, I think, in most intensive manufacturing industries that are making hard devices and complex systems.
Sure. So how'd you get into this? How'd you want to do this as a career?
It was a fortuitous serendipity, right? So I was in grad school working on the stability of matter, right? My research was focused on a thing called proton decay. So the lifetime of the proton is empirically greater than 10 to the 35 years. Right? So it's, something between the square and the cube of the life of the universe long. There's never been a confirmed observation of a proton decaying spontaneously. Yet the Standard Model, which is the main theory, the most fabulously successful theory that humans have ever devised, and all of those things, even with all of its gaps and flaws, it does not have anything in it that says the proton should last indefinitely. So extensions to the Standard Model, like supersymmetry, like string theory, they were very popular avenues of pursuit at the time, and there were mechanisms that would explain, a proton could, fall apart this way or that way. And there were several experiments about that back in the late 80s and 90s, including this one, which we had a unique design, unique form factor, great people, right? The environment was unusual, atypical, and I think special. So that group of people and the researchers around it, worldwide collaboration team, are all focused on, can we learn something? Can we see an event that says, yes, this confirms that these theories will say, what these theories tell us about the way things work? Or can we accumulate enough time of not seeing one such that we can say something unique about establishing a lifetime limit for it? Right? So the nature of particle physics in general is you have this complicated theory that has, number of different manners of predicting the behavior of fundamental interactions in matter. Accelerators are meant to increase the occurrence rate of that by bringing things up to very high energies and knocking them around and seeing what comes out from those interactions in a very methodical way. Heavy-duty computing. If you've ever seen, the detectors at the CERN cyclotron, right? So the LHC, some of the big machines that actually track the particle interactions after they scatter and interact with each other. I mean, they're just monstrous machines. And our experiment was much smaller, much lighter, very modular, very, very cutting edge from a point of view, from the contemporary point of view. And we thought we had a really, really, decent shot of adding something useful to the lifetime. There was a candidate event that may or may not have been an actual proton decay in the mode that we were looking for. But that experiment was relatively small in the grand scheme of things, and so it's largely a footnote at that point. But I got into it because I had become well acquainted with many of the faculty in the physics department at the university back in the 80s, going through my programs there, and I knew more or less what the focus areas were, and for me, I was always drawn to these more fundamental questions of how do we really know that this is the way things work, and what is the true nature of energy and matter? Right? That was really the essence of it, and that at that time certainly moved you towards particle physics as opposed to condensed matter or materials physics that you might see in the magnetic recording industry, for instance, right, behind recording head technologies. So I was focused on that, and that always captivated me. I mean, ultimately, I went into physics because the question why, it's been a motivating force for me, or a motivating question for me. What I've come to learn in these years since is that physics doesn't say anything about why, can't really say anything about why in the existential sense, right, in the meaning sense of the word. It has a lot to say about what and how, right, things work, and that's useful. But why is really up for us, right? I think to answer each of us in our lives, and then together. And I'll say we haven't been doing a very good job of answering why together very well as a species for a long time, right? Let alone as a culture here or a social society.
So how do you bring physics into your everyday life at all?
I try to apply physics to business. Yeah, I have a belief that the same dynamics, corresponding dynamics would be the word that would be more technical, not completely descriptive, but good enough. There is a correspondence between the governing laws and the conservation principles and the symmetry principles that are at work in the universe and govern the behavior and the interactions of matter and energy that ultimately manifest themselves in all of the wondrous, unique, varied expressions that we see in the world around us and that we ourselves are. Right? In my view of the world, we are all expressions of the physical reality of the universe, and it's an amazing thing that all of these basic fundamental forces repeated ad infinitum across an effectively infinite opportunity space of materials, particles, can produce intelligence, can produce life, can lead to all of the things that we think and feel and do together in the human world. Having said that, I've never lost sight of the fact that we're just one kind of intelligence on one little lost, forlorn, pale blue dot out in the middle of nowhere practically. Mm-hmm. And we don't know what else might be out there. And
do you have any theories on that? What else might be out there?
I think the likelihood that there isn't intelligence out there is close to zero. What forms that intelligence takes, how advanced it is, and let's set intelligence aside as a special class of life. All right. Mm-hmm. So, does lemongrass have intelligence? No. Right. Do sea otters have intelligence? Absolutely. Right? Do orcas have intelligence? Well, you're seeing it now, and they don't seem to be very happy about things. Mm-hmm. Right? So my view is that we should definitely expect a boundless spectrum of life expressions, how materials form together to function in the ways that we associate with life, meaning it acquiring energy under some sort of motivational dynamics and pursuing, the persistence of being by replenishing energy, these types of things, and then replicating, reproducing, right, and continuing it on. I think there's I won't say infinite, but a effectively infinite variety of that to be found in the universe. But I also understand that the magnitude of the universe, the scale, and the limitations, like the speed of light, essentially preclude us from really ever knowing or mapping that out, right? Mm-hmm. We're nowhere close to being able to cavort around the galaxy, right, in the Star Trek mold, right? Quick aside, there's a whole core and cluster of people that are damned and determined to force us into a world that they think is going to be like that. And that itself is causing some problems that are complementing many, many historical problems that have never been fully remedied. And I think it's an injustice to the planet. It's injustice to ourselves, people, humans, all right, and all of the other creatures and living organisms that we share this planet with, to believe that we're going to go off and conquer space because we've done the things that we've done on the planet. I mean, I look around and I go, we're trashing the joint. We're kind of in a bacchanalia of consumption, and the idea that we're going to go off and be galactic conquerors is an absurd proposition at its face.
Yeah. Makes sense.
And then that's just the galaxy. Right? Then there's trillions of those. Right? So
yeah.
So I think that, without getting too far into this, we have a hard time accepting that we are effectively alone. And that bothers many people, right? Maybe bothers most people. To me, it doesn't bother me, right? It tells us that that's why we're precious and unique, and that's why we need to be putting our full value on our humanity, on our existence, on our prosperity and continuing advancement to learn. And if I'm wrong, for example, and someday in the far distant future, we developed a command to, move time and space, move ourselves through time and space in a way that allows us to actually do these observations and to go see what's on the other side of the spiral arm of the Milky Way, or what's in Andromeda, or beyond that. It will be because we value that.
Mm-hmm.
If we don't value that, we'll never get to the other questions. So that's probably a little bit gauzy what I'm saying.
No,
here,
it's
right?
okay. Interested to hear your thought on the people that got trapped in space for, was it 9 months?
Mm.
And then Elon went and got them within a couple of days or something. Did you hear about this?
Elon didn't go get them.
Yeah.
Okay.
What was the story?
Elon didn't do anything, right, about that other than create trouble where no trouble was necessary.
Sure.
Right, and he created that trouble to bring attention to himself.
Yep.
And to impugn others. All right, period. Right. Elon is not a good man. He's not who people think he is, those who are his stands, right, and those who excuse every bad behavior. I mean, let me tell you what. I'm going to go back to Seagate. All right, so I was advancing along very nicely. For a while, I was rising in the organization as fast as anybody else, right, in the company.
Yeah.
I ended up, being assigned some significant responsibility. At the time, I went to the expatriate assignment in Northern Ireland, and then when I came back, I went up again. But I was held there for a cycle, because at the time, and this is what I had learned and been taught, I was a kick butts and take name kind of manager, right?
Sure.
Action, get it done, right? I don't care who's at fault, right? I just want this damn thing solved, and blah 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 blah. And I was effective, but there's a limit to how effective you can be there. There is some leadership capital in being an ass kicker, right? But it's not the best capital. It's not the most capital, right? There's a kind of leadership that's better than that. I was held back for doing things that are just a tiny fraction of the kind of behavioral violations that Elon Musk is known for.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Screaming at people, firing them on the spot. Right? Seagate went through a cultural transformation while I was there. We knew that we had great potential, but we also knew that potential would be under-realized in the cultural mode we lived in. And so we went through this cultural transformation. It was difficult. It, impacted a lot of people, favorably and unfavorably. I had that personal interaction. I was sent to personnel data decisions, right, or incorporated that's here in town, right, to do the classic skills rating, right, and I pegged the meter on hard skills and wallowed in the muck on EQ related items before it was related, called EQ.
Yeah.
Did a simulation type scenario where I was filmed, right, being a senior executive, dealing with some people, and realized that, I'm not who I think I am, right? When I see myself from the other's point of view, and I tell that story, and it's coming out somewhat mixed up here, but I'm telling that story because that was a key personal lesson within a key organizational lesson within a key business context, environment. The industry, the hard drive industry, was known for being a really hard, intensive environment. And so it's again a series of recursive or nested fractal expressions, right? Or fractal in what the principles of behavior, right, and how you treat people are, and what those mean. And what we're seeing today is that not only is somebody like Elon Musk really allowed to treat people in ways that nobody would ever, finish the day at work if they did that.
For sure.
It's not only being allowed, it's being cheered and championed by people, right? And it's used as an excuse based on this myth that there's some incredible genius and productivity behind it, which is garbage. Right? Yeah.
Agreed.
So,
yeah. So in your line of work, tell a good story, funny story, something that you've something worth sharing over the years?
Well, I'll tell you the ironic story, which is I've spent my life doing analytical endeavor. So observe the world, measurement, instrumentation, and so on. Particle physics, right, is sort of right in the middle of that whole discussion, right? How do we measure, right, the transfer of energy between this particle and that particle when they're scattering, right? All those things, right? So that was this core skill and this desire to know, right? How does it work? That's led to a career using data systems and analysis to improve designs and processes that we apply to products. Mm-hmm. And then it evolved into looking at more general processes like how people make decisions and how do we decide what we're going to commit for the budget next quarter, right, or next year, and when do we think we're really going to bring this product out to market, and what's between us, right, and that goal. And then going beyond that, looking at things like why is startup yield so lousy, right? When we have a yield in the startup system, despite injecting billions and billions of dollars, right, in fundamental research through universities and national laboratories and pick your competition, right, and your program, we then filter that through a gambling process and wonder why we aren't getting more for our money, right? So that's another scope, right, of an analysis process. So throughout all of that, I've been figuring out how to make people smarter by using computers and tools, give us greater insight, better understanding, more knowledge, and increase our comprehension of the way the world is structured, the way materials and energy relate to each other, and how we can, through innovation, reconfigure the structure of matter and energy in time so that it suits our needs more directly than the natural processes that delivered us are doing. So something simple like irrigation, right, is an innovation. It's a very straightforward and basic innovation to say we're going to move the water from where it is to where we need it, right? And we're going to do that by reconfiguring the ground, right, and the pathway from where the water is to where we want it, right, and where we need it, right? And that came, from things like, I'm not going to say this exclusively, but things like watching the Nile flood, right, on an annual basis, right, and all that. And so we learned that we can reconfigure, is the word I use, the space around us, and make it to our advantage. So through all this time, trying to make people more intelligent, I now find myself towards the twilight of my career where this thing called AI, and it has many, many dimensions and many different aspects, but right now I'm speaking more specifically to the popular perception of it, the popular understanding of it that you hear and read about on, again, on LinkedIn or the other professional platforms, or pick your favorite social media. And what is ironic and unfortunately so in my mind is that there is a core of people who believe that is supposed to be a substitute for us or a replacement for us, as opposed to another tool to complement our own skills, right? To amplify our innate skills by concentrating a portion of those in a particular way with a particular series of devices that do things in a narrow scope better and faster than we can.
You're right, because
aren't suitable for replacing us at a broad full scope.
Yeah, you're right, because you do hear a lot of hey, we're going to be replaced by AI or robots, when in actuality, let's use it and make us all better and, like you said, smarter.
I'm a big believer that we're just getting started. Right? In my view of the world, we're kindergartners. Right? When you talk about the galaxy and the universe and what might be out there and how long it's been going on, how long it might go on, and you think about classic cultural invocations of destiny. Right? So take Star Trek, right? And I'm a big fan of the original series specifically. I think it's far superior than the other ones in terms of the stories and the messages that it delivers. So beings like the Metrons, right, or beings like the Organians, and a couple of famous episodes that people out there may recognize.
Mm-hmm.
We are to them what ants are to us. And so for us to go, we can conceive this, right? Our brains, our mind, our society, and not just an individual, but culturally, we can all understand that concept, right? That idea that there's this other state of being, that there's this advanced understanding that allows us to be super intelligent and super powerful, or whatever you want to call it. Yet we sit here today and act like we're the peak of the universe. And we have to actually replace ourselves with solid state devices and inorganic materials, because that's how we're going to last forever, right? And it's like it's a complete nonsense idea. It's coming from people who don't really understand anything about materials and reliability. Number one, right? Don't really have an appreciation, let alone an understanding of what intelligence really is. Right? I'll say I'm scratching my head right now about how to work with this in the coming time. Again, in the last few years that I'm really going to be working, how do I relate to this? How do I position myself to this relative to what I think we should do and where we want to go, and a whole group of other people that are more along the lines that I am? All right, I'll tell you. I'll reference a story here that really bothers me, that I commented on some months ago.
Sure.
So Bezos made some comment about, gee, if we had 1 trillion people living in space stations, maybe we could have 1,000 Einsteins. And I'm like, how do you not know there's 10 of them right now in the Sudan, right, in Eritrea, right, in Gaza, in other places where we're starving the people because we choose to.
Mm-hmm.
You want to go populate space and put people into closed, sterile environments with no fresh air, no water on your face, no swimming, none of these things, and you think from that you're going to yield out Einsteins. This is yield out, thinking, right? This is classic McKinsey thinking. We'll just have 1 trillion people and we'll yield out more Einsteins.
Yep.
It's like, I say just feed the people and we'll have a much greater population percentage of Einsteins, right? And it's not just Einstein. It's the Maya Angelou's. It's the other geniuses, right? It's the Amanda Gormans, right? These kinds of people, they're out there. And they're out there now withering and dying for the good of people like Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos. And that really troubles me.
Sure.
And it should trouble everybody. Now, we're getting far afield from business.
It's okay. Sometimes it happens and we can circle back, but it's nice to understand what you believe, who you are. That's what this is all about. Getting your story out there.
So, I'll just wrap it up and say artificial intelligence in my mind is an oxymoron.
Okay.
There's no such thing.
Sure.
Right? There's augmented intelligence. There's assisted intelligence. Right? But ultimately, and I won't go into what I think intelligence is. Believe me, I take my input from deep complexity systems thinkers.
Sure.
Right? Santa Fe Institute, people in other organizations around the world that are much deeper into the actual science of mathematics and knowledge, what we know, right? The whole quantum computing, by the way, has sort of opened up the door into what things mean. It's brought the question of cause and effect and determinism and all of these things into our lives in a way that other technologies have not yet done, right? Even though many of them are based on the same underlying principles, right, and the same engineering work, right, that harnesses, right, those forces, right, and those phenomenologies.
Yeah. So what in your line of work? The name of the podcast is called The Chills. What gives you those feel good moments in your line of work?
So what I have come to value, I think, the most is I like to see people lifting other people up, right? And I like to see people who are lifting other people up succeed. A lot of our world today, a lot of our business as usual thinking is based on dominate and be better than the other guy, right? kill the competition, slaughter the competition. Our language still is rife with the brutality of our rise, our ascension from savagery, right, to the modern world. And there's just too much of that in our business. So I guess I never finished the idea. I thought I think we're, preschoolers, kindergartners, and we need to be thinking about how we're going to graduate from high school, right? And then what college might look like, right? Obviously, there's a whole bunch of other people that think they're already grad students, right, ready to tell us where we're at. And I think that's just a bunch of baloney, right? But that comes with these practical effects, like, for me to get better, you have to be worse, right? The zero-sum model thinking, right? My belief is we didn't rise from ignorance and pre-civilization to make villages, to establish cities by beating the hell out of each other, right, and bashing each other over the head, right? The original commerce was collaborative. Had to be, or we wouldn't have made it here.
Yep.
Right? And we've turned the abundance that we've been able to at least present, whether it's really there or not, whether there's really a bank account that's going to support abundance, right, the way we want it is a big question right now. But we've taken that, and now we've said, well, the name of the game is to take as much of that as you can, damn the other people, right? And that's the measure of success. I mean, that's the principle behind shareholder value, right? And so we run ourselves on a model that dehumanizes us implicitly and commodifies us and treats us as resources, treats us as objects of consumption. We abstract away ourselves as markets, right? And so we're not the humans we think we are. We're not the humans we once were in that sense. We have too much of the humans we once were in the negative side of things. So when I see people who are succeeding by helping other people, by lifting them up,
makes you feel good.
That makes me feel good.
Yeah.
When I see people who make commercial businesses that are actually aligned with our values, so people who want to put commercial solar on rooftop, right, and be participative in the energy generation process. I suppose Allweather Roof maybe does some solar, or at least interacts with solar people, I would think. Sure. Yeah, I'm not terribly familiar with your business.
We're actually part of Minnesota's largest solar project on Wagner Spray Tech. They make the home and commercial sprayers. They did a whole solar project on their roof in Plymouth.
So I was part of the founding team at 10K Solar.
Oh, you were?
Yeah.
Okay.
I knew Dallas Meyer at Seagate, and many of the people on the engineering side we brought there, and then Joel Cannon came in from the business side to help us, lead us through how do we take these design ideas that Dallas had and these process capabilities that we brought to the table and make that into a great product that we can go market. And we did. We made a great product. But it got crushed by two things, right? It got crushed by the macroeconomics and the tariff situation in the mid-teens. But it has been slowly, as have other versions of solar products, been suppressed by Xcel, by the utilities around the country. You can go look up the articles around here. Logan Grady from MnSEA just pointed something out on LinkedIn yesterday about it. And we suppressed that. And that's not the spirit of innovation. That's not the spirit of endeavor. That's not green commerce for good. That's an entitlement. I'm competing against decades of management and leadership lore that considers marginalizing, constraining, or exploiting others as business as usual based on a sense of entitlement to plundered resources. I mean, that's our business world. Right? I mean, we need to accept the fact that conquest was the start of this. And there are a lot of people who want to continue on with conquest. There are others like me and many others who say, no, we need to get past that. We need to mature beyond that. And that's the big dynamic, right? Or at least one element of it that you see going on now. So people who make value that's aligned with our values, right, is good. So people who generate waste and pollute the environment and spew methane into the air, and don't care, right, or dump oil into the oceans. I mean, they're not good people. It's not business as usual. It's just bad people doing bad things. People who want to upcycle spent beer grain, collect the membrane off of eggshells, which I spent several years doing with Net Zero. People who want to use technology not to trap you into a transactional web and sign you up for a program that's then going to start billing your card, and it's going to make it impossible for you to, or very difficult for you to stop that process. I mean, that's not adding value, right?
Yeah.
That's prey, right? Predating. So that's the vampire side of business, right? And we still seem to have some unnatural fascination with it, in my mind, because we've come to measure ourselves with the wrong metrics.
Yeah. Everybody work together for a common goal and help each other, and I like the message.
Let me just wrap up what makes me positive or inspirational. Interacting with other curious characters, thank you, Feynman, who exchange exquisite expressions that illuminate the world with their distinct wavelength of light. So that's
a good quote.
What I think.
That was Feynman, you said?
No, that was me. My statement. The curious character is Feynman.
Okay, got it.
He was. That's where the phrase comes from.
Okay, I like that quote. Anything else you want to share before we wrap it up?
Yeah, two things, please.
Sure.
It doesn't make us bigger to diminish others. All right. When we say a phrase, and this is where I'm talking about where our language still has these remnants of a less mature mindset, like taking candy from a baby. Who would ever take candy from a baby, and why? Well, what does that mean, right? Who's done that, right? Why would we use such a phrase, right, as a colloquialism for some sort of event, right, or accomplishment, right? So again, it doesn't make us bigger to diminish others. And then the other thing is, more tech isn't helping us with CAPA, meaning the corrective action and preventative actions that we need to fix the environment, to correct the injustices that have lingered in our social structure and in our economy. And really now, I mean, you can see it. I've avoided making any direct references to the immediate events going on.
Sure.
But this is going to get up close to them. Liberty is on the block. People are being shipped out, and then being laughed about. Right? Tech isn't helping with that. It's actually making it worse right now. Right? I recommend, if people who haven't heard it, look up a guy named Cory Doctorow, and a term that he's coined for an idea that many have recognized. The term is, and I tried to get him to not use it because it's got the word shit in it. He says "enshittification." Right? And that's basically like the big tech companies making a nice application or a platform that you like.
Sure.
And then over time it becomes less than it was, and it becomes so much less that you really don't like it. Or take LinkedIn, for example, right? Or the shitter, right, is the classic case of that, X. We have technology amplifies everything about us, right, depending on what kind of technology it is. It can make us better. It can make us smarter. It can make us faster. It can make us stronger. It can also make us nastier, meaner, more callous, less concerned, and easier to get over on each other. And so I think people have to ask themselves, is the world a big game where I'm trying to get over on you and you're trying to get over on me? Or is the world a place where we go, hey, we can go make this thing really great, and it'll be great for us and great for other people together? So that's I guess where I'll conclude that.
Did you ever watch the Ted Lasso series?
I did not. No, I'll tell you what. I've really, especially since COVID, I found television and movie entertainment to be almost unconsumable. So I'm going to go on a rant.
Go for it.
I'm appalled. I never watched 1 minute of The Sopranos. I never watched 1 minute of Game of Thrones. All right? I never watched 1 minute of Breaking Bad, because I don't get pleasure watching other people brutalize other people. The fact that so many people in our society take pleasure in watching the brutalization of other people as entertainment explains why they're comfortable with the brutalization of those people in real life happening right now in parts of the world. And we are drunk on our own sense of success, drunk on our technology, drunk on our belief that we're the greatest things in the universe, and we're ruining everything.
Yeah.
So.
My reason for bringing up the Ted Lasso thing is he has a quote from Walt Whitman is, "Be curious, not judgmental." And it kind of reminded me of...
I don't agree with that at all, though.
You don't?
No, because I'm more with Elie Wiesel, right? You have to stand against intolerance. You have to be intolerant of intolerance. You cannot tolerate hate, right? You have to judge evil and hate for what it is, right? And make no mistake, the people who are the evil ones are trying to use that tool against us.
Okay.
All right, so that would be a much longer conversation.
This was fun.
All right. Well, I don't mean to be a downer or anything like that, but the world is in a serious state.
It is. It's
right?
different, right?
It's not going to be fixed with some great TV show.
Yep. Or Star Trek, for that matter.
No, not at all.
Anyways, this was fun. Thanks for coming in.
All right, my pleasure. Thank you for having me. All right.
Yeah. And that's a wrap, folks. A huge thank you to our incredible guests and, of course, Allweather Roof for making this podcast possible. If you enjoyed these conversations as much as we did, don't forget to hit subscribe and share the chills with your fellow business aficionados. Remember, it's not just about business, it's personal, and it's all about the people. Stay inspired, chase those dreams, and let the chills guide you. Till next time, this is Brent, signing off from the Chills Podcast. Catch you on the flip side.